The person cursing there was Tu, a final year student at a nearby university. What made a well-educated student so frustrated that he had to swear? It was Mrs. Cam's skyrocketing rent. In just 3 months, her rent had doubled. Of course, no one could tolerate such an unreasonable increase, including Tu. In fact, he was the only one who could still bear to live there, because in just 2 months, Tu would graduate. He also talked to Mrs. Cam, asking her to be understanding and reduce the rent a little for him. At first, she mumbled, seemingly agreeing. But when Tu returned from school this afternoon, he was horrified to find that Mrs. Cam had moved all of his belongings out of the room and into the hallway. The words evicted written on a piece of paper stuck to Tu's villain even more furious. Mrs. Cam refused to come out and talk, keeping her door tightly shut. A neighbor then called out, "Tu, don't shout, it's useless. She's about to sell this boarding house, so she doesn't care about tenants anymore." Tu sighed, as if understanding the situation, and shook his head dejectedly. After a moment, Tu called his girlfriend to tell her what happened. Hearing it, his girlfriend was also extremely angry, insisting on coming over to sort things out. But Tu stopped her, because his priority now wasn't arguing with Mrs. Cam, but quickly finding stable accommodation to focus on his graduation exams. 3 days passed, and Tu drifted from one friend's boarding house to another. He had few close friends, so he felt uncomfortable staying long. Just when he felt most desperate, suddenly, one afternoon, Tu received a call from Master Ho, his head of department. "Are you looking for a place to stay?" "Yes, Master. How did you know?" "That's not important. But I have a house belonging to a relative who went to America and isn't living there. It's just sitting empty. I don't have much time to go and check on it or clean it. If you don't mind, you can move in there. I won't charge you rent. Consider it payment for cleaning the place up." Hearing Master Ho, Tu's eyes widened in surprise. He was speechless for a long time. "No one lives there. Let me arrange it for you." But Tu immediately nodded vigorously, saying, "Yes, I'll stay. Master, please, thank you so much." "Good then. Come to my house this afternoon. I'll take you there." "Yes, Master." That afternoon, Tu stood in front of Master Ho's gate. He reached out and pressed the doorbell. "Who is it?" Master Ho's voice rang out. Tu quickly replied, "It's me, Tu, Master." The gate quickly opened. Master Ho, dressed in a shirt, smiled when he saw Tu and said, "You're a bit late, aren't you?" "I've been waiting." "Yes, I got stuck in traffic, otherwise I wouldn't be late." "All right, let's go." "Yes, Master." The two quickly walked out of Master Ho's house. He drove his car, taking Tu with him. More than 40 minutes passed. Tu frowned at the streets and wondered, "Master, where is that house?" "It's so far." Master Ho chuckled at Tu's question and nodded. "It's on the outskirts, about half an hour away. But I guarantee you'll love it when you see it." Tu nodded, continuing to wait. Exactly half an hour later, Master Ho's car stopped in front of a house. He took his hands off the steering wheel and smiled broadly. "We're here." Tu looked inside. It was, indeed, a spacious house. But the front garden was absolutely stunning. Master Ho added, "Don't worry about transportation. There are 5 buses going into the city every day, so you can go anywhere you want. If you can afford it, you can buy a motorbike too. Tu nodded, and Master Hall led him on a tour. Afterwards, he got back in his car and returned to the city. Tu collapsed onto the bed and called his girlfriend to give her the news. His girlfriend seemed overjoyed. They talked for hours. 2 days passed, and Tu spent all his time sweeping, cleaning, and pruning the plants in the garden. When he was still in his hometown, Tu often helped his father with gardening. So these tasks were not difficult for him. This morning, after eating a homemade breakfast of scrambled eggs and leftover bread from last night, Tu opened the door and stepped outside. Today, he thought he would take a stroll around to see the scenery and people. As he was locking the door, a voice from behind startled him. "Young man?" Tu turned around to see an old man waving at him. Surprised, Tu politely asked, "Yes, uncle, did you call me?" "That's right, you're new here, aren't you?" "Yes, I just moved here 2 days ago." "Did you buy this house?" "Oh, no, a friend let me stay here." The old man was silent for a moment, then smiled at Tu. He continued, "Then you probably haven't been around here yet, have you? The scenery here is beautiful." Tu was surprised by the old man's interest. However, he was still pleased by this attention. "Well, uncle, I've been a bit tired lately, so I haven't been out. Perhaps I'll go later. I've also heard that the scenery here is very beautiful. If you're interested, come with me. I know a strange place you'll surely like." "Where, uncle?" "Have you heard of My Can Waterfall?" My Can Waterfall was a very strange name to Tu, and it made sense. During his 4 years of university, he only knew how to study. How could he have time to explore places? He hadn't even memorized all the street names in the city, let alone the outskirts like this. "If you don't know, I'll take you. Will you come?" Tu suddenly felt curious, and he was surprised at himself for accepting. "Yes, I'll go with you, uncle. But just a moment, I'll grab my camera." Tu was about to go inside for his camera, but the old man quickly said, "You shouldn't take pictures here. It's not suitable for photography." "Why not?" "Just come and you'll see." Tu was puzzled, but didn't press the question. So he silently followed. The two crossed a wide expanse that resembled a field, then followed a small path leading into the forest's edge. Only about 30 minutes later, Tu exclaimed, "Oh, it's so beautiful." Before his eyes was a roaring waterfall, cascading down, bright white. The old man smiled gently. "This is just one part. The deeper you go, the more beautiful this waterfall gets. Do you want to stay here or go further up?" Tu was immediately excited. "Yes, please, uncle. It's less than 200 meters. If you want, you can follow me." "Yes. Please, uncle, lead the way." Tu ran after the old man, even though the path was difficult. Tu, a young man, found it hard, let alone an elderly man. Yet, the old man's steps were surprisingly nimble. The two walked for a while, and Tu continued. "Wow, it's beautiful here. This waterfall is truly stunning. It's large, and the amount of water cascading down creates delightful rumbling sounds. The water is so clear that you just want to jump in and swim. That's My Can Waterfall. Don't you think it's beautiful?" Tu nodded. his eyes observing. He gazed for a moment, and when he turned back, he couldn't see the old man anywhere. Tu called out, "Uncle." Receiving no reply, Tu frowned. Where did he go? Tu walked to the open space in front of him to continue searching, but he couldn't see the old man anywhere. Preoccupied with calling out to the old man, Tu forgot the time. When he saw the sun high above his head, Tu checked his watch and was startled. "It's past 1 p.m. Tu looked for the old man one more time, but still couldn't find him. As he was looking around, Tu was startled when he saw what looked like a silhouette in the water. "What is that?" Tu froze when he realized it was the silhouette of a girl. Moreover, she was completely naked. Tu blushed, turning his face away immediately. But his gaze just now seemed not to have escaped the girl. Tu heard footsteps in the water, getting closer, and then a sweet voice spoke up. "Hey you, why are you peeking at me bathing? I didn't know. I didn't mean to. You say that, but does it sound believable? All men are perverts." Tu honestly didn't understand why he was being scolded so harshly, but he also considered the girl's perspective. If someone saw her entire body like that, it would be strange if she didn't react strongly. Tu quickly replied, "I'm sorry. Yes. Sorry for what? You looked your fill, and now an apology is supposed to fix it?" "So what do you want me to do now?" "Go home and tell your parents to propose marriage to me. Understood? What? Marry?" Tu was utterly bewildered by the girl's words, but he thought she was just joking. Tu forced a laugh and said, You shouldn't joke like that." A burst of laughter rang out, and then everything fell silent. Tu still stood there in a daze, waiting for the girl to say something. "Ah, what are you standing there for?" The familiar voice rang out. It turned out to be the old man, and he was indeed standing in front of Tua. Tu was overjoyed, thinking he had found his rescuer. He stood up, dusted off his pants, and said, "Uncle, where have you been? I had a stomach ache, so I went to the restroom for a bit. But why are you all sweaty and drenched?" Uncle, is there anyone behind me?" The old man frowned and said, "No one. Why?" It was then that Tu turned around. And indeed, the naked girl had vanished at some point. "Huh, she was just here." Tu looked around everywhere, but couldn't see her. Who did you see?" the old man inquired. It was then that Tu recounted everything to him. After listening, the old man's expression surprised Tu quite a bit. He sighed and looked into the distance. "This girl, Ngoc, she's really foolish." Tu was startled. "Uncle, you know her?" "Not only do I know her, but we're close." "What's your relationship with her? Why?" The old man's voice was sad as he said, "I am her biological uncle." Poor child, so young, yet she's been through so much suffering. Even in death, she can't find peace. The old man's words startled Tu. "What did you say, uncle? She's dead? Ngoc?" The old man's voice was almost a sob. "She's already a ghost, my boy." Tu recalled their earlier conversation and began to shiver. His voice trembled. Then how could I talk to her? The old man suddenly said, "Never mind, it's nothing. Let's go home." Tu was very curious, but no matter how he asked, the old man said nothing. Back home, Tu collapsed onto his bed, countless thoughts swirling in his head. He eventually drifted off to sleep. Tu dreamt that his room door was slightly ajar. Then a figure from outside walked in, a figure that made Tu's eyes widen in horror. It was the naked girl from My Can Waterfall, the old man's niece. You, Tu stammered, his whole body cold. The girl shook her head, her eyes looking at Tu with a hint of resentment. "Did you forget me? You truly are a faithless man." Tu was utterly bewildered. He didn't know if this was a dream or reality, but he decided not to be weak anymore. Tu said, "You, don't be rude. Who are you to me? I already apologized for what happened at the stream, and whether you're a human or a ghost, it has nothing to do with me." Before Tu could finish, his mouth was sealed by the girl's thin, cold lips. She kissed Tu passionately, a kiss more fervent than any Tu had shared with his girlfriend during their intimate moments. Tu wanted to push her away, but couldn't. His body was stiff, completely devoid of strength. You? The girl didn't stop at just kisses. She climbed onto Tu. He realized his clothes were coming off, and their bodies began to intertwine. "Oh my God, what's happening? What is she doing?" Tu groaned, muttering to himself, but with his body so powerless, he could only lie there and endure. After that surprising and confusing intimacy, the girl got off the bed and disappeared. Tu lay there and drifted back into a daze. The next morning, Tu woke up with an extremely exhausted face. And it wasn't just his face. Even his body felt as if it had just gone through a fierce battle. Tu breathed heavily, his voice weak. "What's happening to me?" It wasn't until noon, when the sun was high, that Tu's body showed signs of recovery. And all that day, he just sat there in a daze, thinking about his intimate encounters with the girl. If the old man was right, she was a ghost. Yet Tu dreamt of being intimate with her. Was this just a dream or something else? In the evening, Tu put aside his dream and started studying for his upcoming exams. He had already missed quite a bit of time. Tu studied until past 1 a.m. before going to bed. As soon as his head hit the pillow, he began to snore loudly. He thought his sleep tonight would be peaceful. But no, Tu continued to dream of that girl. And it was still those fiery, intimate encounters. She was truly beautiful. Her body was alluring. But when he thought about the fact that she was just a ghost, Tu felt shivers down his spine. As usual, in the morning, Tu lay flat on the bed like a dried fish. A week had passed, which also meant a week of Tu having physical relations with Ngoc's ghost. His body had deteriorated to a critical point. Now even breathing made his bones feel like they were shattering, and that part of him hurt even when he urinated. At 10 a.m., Tu lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. What's happening to me? As he was deep in thought, Tu was startled by the doorbell ringing outside. He frowned, wondering, who could it be? The bell rang again, but this time it was accompanied by a voice. Mr. Tran, Mr. Tu, are you home? This voice was strange. Tu didn't recognize it at all, but then he suddenly remembered that he might have a package from his girlfriend. They were in a long-distance relationship, so Tu often received such packages every month. I'm coming. I'm here. Tu called out as he tried to get out of bed, but his legs felt completely weak. He felt as if he was paralyzed. It took him more than 10 minutes to finally get outside. It's so dizzy outside. After receiving the package, Tu wearily walked back into the house. But after just 2 steps, he stopped short when a voice rang out from behind him. You! Tu! This voice was unmistakable. It was the old man who had taken him to the waterfall the other day. Tu spun around. Before he could say anything, the old man spoke. What's your full name? The old man raised his voice a little. My name is Tranan Tu, sir. You, what is your relation to the family who owns this house? Why do you ask, sir? Answer me quickly. The old man was starting to lose his temper. Tu stammered, I don't know. This house is just a place a friend let me stay. And then Tu recounted the story of Master Ho, suggesting he move here. After listening, the old man's face changed completely. Have the two of you done anything yet? Tu was startled. What did the old man mean by that question? Jose said. Did he know about Tu's dreams? But even Tu couldn't explain it, so he could only nod and admit, yes, we have. The old man's eyes became even more serious. He then said, Oh my goodness, what a tragedy. You must stop it immediately. Tu was stunned. Stop it? How can I stop when I can only lie there and endure? He grimaced and said, If I could stop, I would have already, uncle. The old man quickly grabbed Tu's hand and said sternly, No, that's enough. Please stop. I don't want another life to be lost. Tu was startled. Which life are you talking about, uncle? The old man suddenly looked regretful about something, his voice becoming strained. And I was merely indulging her. She said she had to find someone from the family, and you were the first, and probably the only one. Tu was utterly surprised. The family? But I'm not from that family. My surname is Tran. The old man cried out, Oh my God. Then he embraced. Tu, I was wrong. I've harmed you. He seemed about to run away, but luckily Tu managed to grab him. Uncle, please explain more clearly. How have you harmed me? The old man completely collapsed. His body shriveled and his voice became weak. He said that he only did it because he felt so much pity for his niece, enduring such a tragic fate. So he reluctantly agreed. He never wanted another innocent life to be lost. Hers was enough. Uncle, what are you saying? I don't understand anything. Suddenly, the old man pointed at Tu and said, You are the next one. Tu was bewildered. Me? But next for what? To die. The answer was clear, but Tu thought he had misheard. Uncle. No. Before Tu could say more, the old man spoke in one breath. Ngoc was harmed by someone and died unjustly. Her soul wandered without a place to rest, so I always had to follow her, taking her from one place to another. Without food or clothing, she became a hungry ghost, but I never expected her wandering soul to have an agenda. She wants revenge. She wants revenge. So, has she succeeded, Uncle? Has she found the person she needs to take revenge on? It's too late too late. She has found him. And that's the problem. Why me? The old man sighed and said, "It was a misunderstanding. Ngoc visited me in a dream the other day. She said someone from that house had returned. I thought it was you, so I met you to persuade you to come here so Ngoc could interact with you." Tu slapped his mouth, understanding. I was mistaken, but I think she'll understand. She wouldn't harm me. The old man sighed and said, "It's too late. After you and she had physical relations, it was truly too late." Tu was startled and said, "In my dream, she was the one who initiated it." The old man nodded. "Of course she wanted it. And do you want to know why she did it?" He paused for a moment and then said her wandering soul informed me that she wanted to be reincarnated quickly but couldn't, because in the afterlife, only those who died a normal death from old age or illness are allowed to transcend peacefully. Those like her must find a replacement to be released. If she wants to be reincarnated, she must get revenge and make the children and grandchildren of the perpetrator pay for their sins. Only then can she move on. Oh, hey, hell. Tu frowned and continued to ask, "How did Ngoc die, Uncle? Who killed her?" The old man suddenly looked like he was about to burst into tears. He shook his head. "The poor girl died tragically. When she was found, she had no clothes on. She was raped and strangled to death. Her body was left to float down this waterfall. Was the perpetrator caught, Uncle?" The old man continued, "No. There was no evidence or trace at the scene. And Ngoc told me in a dream that she was blindfolded, so she didn't know who the killer was. She only faintly overheard a phone call where the killer mentioned his surname was Le and his given name was Tang. After that, I immediately reported it to the police, but there was no one named Le Tong in the village. The only Le family in this village is the one in this house. But everyone had an alibi, so Ngoc's case faded into oblivion. But I will never forget this grudge. Because they are rich, they can cover up everything." "Oh my goodness! Was there such a story, Uncle?" The old man seemed to have no strength left to speak. He suddenly stood up and walked with a limp, but still tried to move. Tu was afraid. "So, what do I do, Uncle?" He called back, "I was wrong." He could only say that much before he nearly collapsed from exhaustion, falling onto the rocks. Tu frantically ran to help him up. Uncle, are you all right?" The old man didn't move anymore. His eyes were tightly shut, no different from a dead person. Tu panicked. Without thinking, he lifted the old man and ran like the wind towards the nearby residential area. After asking around for a while, Tu and a few others brought the old man home. It was an old house. All the roads were covered in moss. As Tu looked up after laying the old man down on a rattan bed, he exclaimed, "What?" He saw a shrine in the corner of the house. On it was a half-body photograph of a girl, and as soon as Tu saw it, he cried out. No, he wasn't surprised. He was scared. He softly called out, "Ngoc, I'm sorry." Yes, Tu clasped his hands together, very sincerely. "I'm sorry for offending you. I didn't mean to." But then silence enveloped everything, with no reaction at all. Tu then turned back to the old man and gently massaged his head. A moment later, the old man regained consciousness. As soon as he saw Tu, he said softly, "Ngoc just visited me in a dream. It seems you've escaped the initial danger, but only because your fate is strong. If you continue like this, it's not the way. You'd better leave. You should leave this place as soon as possible. The farther, the better. I'm sorry, my boy. I know a master in the town. If you want to go there to resolve this, I'll show you the way." Tu was very confused, but seeing the old man's demeanor, he had no other choice. The old man rested until the afternoon and felt better. Tu also quickly went home and packed all his belongings. Then, at exactly 5 p.m., the old man and Tu took a bus to the town. After another bus ride, the two finally arrived. The old man got off the bus, pointed straight ahead, and said, "We're here." Tu looked in the direction of his finger and realized it was a small temple. Outside, there was an old sign. Its paint faded quite a bit. On the sign, there were just 3 words, "Anduong Tu, Yin Yang Temple." Tu whispered the temple's name, frowning at its somewhat strange meaning. But the old man seemed very urgent. He pulled Tu into the temple. As they passed through the triple gate of the temple, Tu immediately felt his body tremble. A shiver ran down his spine. The old man also noticed this change. He whispered, "Bear with it a little, my boy. Once inside." The two approached the main hall's door, and Tu let out a gasp, then fell to his knees on the ground. "What? What is this?" He muttered to himself. "Nightel, Lang, Tiel." Suddenly, 3 chimes rang out from inside the main hall. Their reverberating sound made Tu feel dizzy. Then his eyes felt heavy and drooped, and everything gradually blurred. Tu woke up in a haze, realizing the sound of wooden fish drums chanting sutras was right next to his ear. Tu jolted awake and looked around. The old man was sitting there, staring at him, and next to him was an equally old monk. His bald head, white hair and beard suggested he was a highly respected spiritual master. The monk's eyes were closed, and he continuously struck the wooden fish drum, muttering scriptures. Tu looked outside. It was already pitch black. "Uncle Mai," Tu said, looking at the old man. "Oh." The old man quickly put a hand to his mouth, stopping Tu's words and gesturing for him to remain silent, indicating that he should let the monk chant. Tu, saying this, said nothing more. The two sat in silence, patiently waiting. It was more than half an hour later when the monk finally stopped chanting. He slowly opened his eyes, looked at Tu, and said, "Greetings, young man." Tu stammered, nodding back in greeting. "English, I would don't know me." "How?" "Yes, master. I came here. You don't need to say anything. The old man here has already told me everything." Tu looked at the old man, who nodded, signaling to him. The master then continued, "Just now, when you fainted, did you still dream of her?" Tu shook his head. Indeed, when he fainted, he remembered nothing. "No, I didn't dream of anything. It seems she still knows fear." The monk then stood up, walked to the Buddhist altar in the center of the room, lit incense, and prayed. Afterwards, he turned around, sat down, and began to speak. "You have been afflicted by the yin possession of that girl. If it weren't for your strong faith, you would have already died twice." "Twice?" "Yes. The first time was at the stream. She couldn't drag you into the water and drown you. The second time was during your intimate encounters with her. She couldn't completely drain your yang energy." The more Tu heard the monk speak, the more shivers ran down his spine. He stammered, "Master, please save me. I don't want to die." The monk nodded, clasped his hands in front of his chest, and slowly said, "Stay calm, young man. It's not normal that you've been able to live until now. This is both your karmic debt and your karmic connection. You must be strong and overcome it. Afterwards, you will surely have a joyful life." Tu, of course, didn't understand what the monk was saying. The monk also didn't let him ponder, but continued, "Yes, I will help you prevent her from entering your dreams again. However, because the two of you have already had a yin-yang union, I cannot completely separate you. And eliminating her is not the best approach. Because according to the law of karma, you have no grudge or enmity with her. So you must resolve it with kindness and righteousness to achieve lasting peace." "Why?" Tu vaguely understood. He looked at the monk and said, "Master, does that mean her spirit will still follow me?" The monk nodded in confirmation. "But don't be alarmed. I will perform a ritual so that you no longer see her. After some time, when this karmic connection ends, she will naturally leave you, guided by the mantra back to this temple. Then I will perform a prayer for her to be reborn in the Pure Land." "Yes, I understand, Master. Thank you." Monk nodded. Then he sat cross-legged before the altar, striking the wooden fish drum and chanting sutra. Tu didn't know what sutras he was chanting, but the more he listened, the lighter his body felt. A moment later, the monk stopped chanting and approached Tu, handing him a yellow talisman and a Buddhist scripture book. "Take these. Keep this talisman in a dry place on your family altar. As for this scripture book, you should read it twice a day, before going to bed and after waking up. If nothing unusual happens, it should be done in about a month." "A month?" Tu had already felt exhausted after just a few short days. What would another month be like? But Tu had no other choice but to follow the monk's advice and see what happened. Leaving the temple, Tu didn't go back to the city. He decided to return to his hometown. He requested a temporary postponement of his graduation exam due to health reasons, and fortunately it was accepted. After returning the house keys to Master Ho, Tu didn't mention anything about encountering a ghost. He got in his car and drove straight back to his hometown. But, seeing her son's haggard face, Mrs. Yu Too's mother was very worried. Furthermore, he was ill for almost 2 weeks. His body was hot and cold by turns, and every time he closed his eyes, he heard someone calling his name. Too continuously chanted mantras, and only then did the condition cease. But there was one thing Too couldn't understand. Whenever he was near his girlfriend, he would hear faint sobs somewhere very close, but he couldn't tell who it was. And the feeling in Too's stomach when he was near her was an uncomfortable churning and unease. It must be Ngoc playing tricks again, Too muttered to himself, then opened the scripture book to read. Only then did the crying stop. That was Too's part. As for Truck, when she heard that her boyfriend was returning from the city, she didn't even have time to be happy before Mrs. Hugh informed her that Too was ill. So, almost all day, Truck asked her parents for permission to go to Too's house to take care of him. Every day, Truck went to the market with Mrs. Hugh, then cooked meals. It goes without saying that anyone who saw them would think Truck was practically a daughter-in-law in the family. And it wasn't just outsiders who thought so. Even Mrs. Hugh whispered to her husband about arranging Too's marriage soon. Mr. Kai, Too's father, chuckled. It's not difficult. I also like that family very much. Once Too graduates and has a stable job, I'll immediately organize it for him. Yes, you're right to plan that. A docile, capable, and kind girl like Truck is hard to find. However, since her boyfriend returned, Truck noticed a distinct change in Too. Every time she reached out to hold his hand, Too would immediately withdraw it and look confused. Even Too's subsequent actions became even stranger. He would constantly read scriptures, and Too's phone played Buddhist music all day long. Truck tried to bring this up with Mrs. Hugh, but she shook her head and replied, I don't know. He just said he had something to do, so he's reading scriptures to clear his mind. Our family isn't religious, so I don't really pay attention. It is so. Truck nodded, also thinking that her boyfriend was probably just exhausted from a stressful exam season, which caused his body to become weak. This afternoon, Truck cooked a pot of medicinal chicken stew, a nutritious dish that was also Too's favorite. She scooped a hot bowl and knocked on her boyfriend's room door. Too? And Too? But there was no answer from inside. Truck frowned. He's not in his room. Then Truck listened and heard Too's faint chanting. She was sure her boyfriend was inside. So Truck continued to knock. Too? And Too? After a long moment, Too's voice finally came from inside. I'm here. What do you want, dear? I brought you some food. Today's dishes. Take it away. I'm not eating. Before Truck could finish, she was immediately met with a harsh dismissal from her boyfriend. Needless to say, she was speechless, rooted to the spot. Inside, Too's chanting grew louder and louder. Truck let out a sigh and returned to the living room. Mrs. Hugh, seeing Truck, smiled brightly and said, It's his favorite dish. He must have finished it in a flash. But the smile on her lips quickly faded when she saw Truck's sullen face. She waved Truck over. Truck, what's wrong, my dear? Truck put the chicken stew on the table and sat down to talk with Mrs. Hugh. I didn't even get to say what dish it was before Too said he wouldn't eat. He told me to go away. Hearing this, Mrs. Hugh frowned. This boy, he's too spoiled. Acting up. You leave it there. I'll go scold him properly and teach him a lesson." As soon as she finished speaking, Mrs. Hughes stood up abruptly and walked towards Two's room. Her loud knocking was enough to show how annoyed she was with her son. "Two, open the door for your mother." And Mrs. Hughes had to wait a moment before Two came out and opened the door. Seeing her son, she snapped, "What's wrong with you lately, huh? Is it because I've spoiled you too much that you've become naughty?" "What is it, mother?" Two asked confusedly. "Out, said God. Now what? Mrs. Hughes snapped. "Don't you know how hard Truck worked to cook that pot of medicinal chicken stew for you? And you just dismissed her like that? I'm telling you, only Truck can put up with your temper. As for me, I don't know what to say to you anymore." After scolding him, Mrs. Hughes stormed out. But Two stood there in a daze for a moment, recalling how cold he had been to Truck earlier. But he couldn't interact with her much, because without even touching her, just hearing Truck's voice made Two's body tremble. He had no other choice but to chant scriptures, limit his contact with Truck, and wait for this terrible period to pass. Then he didn't know what Mrs. Hughes said to Truck outside, but Truck's heart-wrenching sobs rang out again. "She's truly sad because of me." Two sighed. He thought to himself, "If it continues like this, Truck won't be able to bear it, and I don't want to see Truck so sad." So Two went inside, trying to finish reading all the scriptures in the book. After reading, Two stood up and went outside. When he got there, Mrs. Hughes and Truck were still sitting on the sofa, talking. Mr. Kai must have gone somewhere. Seeing Two, Mrs. Hughes snorted and turned her face away. Truck's eyes were swollen. She must have cried a lot. Two gently said, "Truck, come here. I have something to tell you." So, Truck lifted her red-rimmed eyes to look at her boyfriend, then burst into heart-wrenching tears. "Two, don't stand there anymore. Turn around and go back to your room. Go, see what he has to say." As Mrs. Hughes urged, Truck reluctantly stood up and followed him. Inside the room, Two pointed to the chair in the middle of the room and said, "Sit down." He then walked to the bed and sat down. Seeing this, Truck burst into sobs. You don't love me anymore?" Truck spoke and cried hysterically. Mrs. Hughes, scared, rushed inside. "What's going on? What's going on? Mother, just leave us to talk." Well, Two's voice was loud, and Mrs. Hughes stopped and didn't move further. Never before had Two spoken so loudly, and at this moment, something big must be happening. Inside the room, Two looked at Truck. She was still crying intensely. "All right, stop crying. Why do you want to avoid me like this? Can't we even sit close to each other?" Two's hesitation made Truck cry even louder. "All right, come here, and I'll tell you the story." "What story?" Truck still asked between sobs, making him like that. Immediately, Truck wiped the tears from her cheeks and said, "All right, tell me." Two sighed and began to recount everything, from the moment he moved into the house on the outskirts. As he spoke, Truck's face grew more and more astonished. "That's it. Do you understand now?" But then Truck curled her lips into a smile. "Two, what kind of trick are you trying to pull now?" "No? No, I'm telling you the truth. I swear it's all true. What ghosts and spirits? You're just trying to leave me, aren't you?" "No, my dear. If you said I had someone else and was leaving you, I might accept it more easily. But how can I believe you when you make up such an excuse? Listen to me." Truck suddenly screamed, then stormed out, not even going to sit in the living room with Mrs. Hugh, but rushing straight home to her parents. Tu was stunned. Mrs. Hugh almost ran after Truck to stop her. "Are you happy now? Are you happy? What grudge do I have against you, that you treat me like this?" Tu cried out, and only he knew whom he was cursing. Helpless, Tu collapsed onto the bed, tears streaming down his face, tears of helplessness and anger. 3 days passed since Truck went back to her parents' house, and only Mrs. Hugh came to comfort her. Tu was nowhere to be seen. The situation escalated to the point where Truck's parents refused to see Mrs. Hugh. They saw their daughter crying too much and becoming mentally distraught. Mrs. Hugh tried to persuade Tu to apologize, but he shook his head vehemently. Tu was determined that this matter had to pass before he could return to Truck. However, during this time, Truck had a different thought. She reviewed everything that had just happened. She remembered her boyfriend's changes, and they somewhat coincided with that unbelievable story. So, Truck began to lean towards believing Tu's story. She told her mother about it. Her mother initially didn't believe it, but after listening for a while, she wavered. She then said, "As I see it, if Tu is being harassed by that girl's ghost, then you absolutely cannot abandon him. This is truly more like a yin-yang rivalry. If you want to win back your boyfriend, you have to be strong. We can lose to people, but not to ghosts." Her mother's words made Truck feel enlightened. She called Mrs. Hugh. The two mothers, along with Truck, went to find a solution. Finally, they sought out a famous shaman in the region. It cost over 20 million dong for him to agree to help them. According to the shaman's instructions, that very night, Mrs. Hugh and Truck immediately carried out the plan. The talisman that Tu had brought back from the yin-yang temple was taken down by Mrs. Hugh, steeped in a mixture of rooster blood and black dog blood, and then burned. At the same time, the shaman set up an altar and trapped the girl's ghost in a jar. Afterwards, he gave the jar to Mrs. Hugh to take home. The women buried it under the floor of the house. Everything happened according to plan. When the jar was buried under the tiled floor, outside, thunder, lightning, and heavy rain erupted. At that moment, Tu was asleep and startled awake. He looked around, feeling as if he had just heard someone scream, cry, and groan. But everything was very vague. He didn't know who it was. Now, everything plunged back into silence. Tu sat up and got out of bed. He looked around. Tu's body was drenched in sweat. What's going on? He took a towel to wipe himself, but sweat continued to pour like rain. But it wasn't just ordinary sweat. Tu felt as if a great burden had been lifted from his body. The next morning, Tu was even more surprised to see Truck return to take care of him. She looked as cheerful as if nothing had happened in the past few days. Tu was still hesitant, so he didn't dare to get close. Truck, however, was different. She deliberately moved closer to Tu. Finally, Truck took his hand in hers. Why? Why? Tu was bewildered because he felt no change in his body. Everything was strangely normal. Truck smiled at him. What's wrong? You look like you've lost your soul. Tu stood there in a daze for a moment, then joyfully hugged Truck. Ah, oh my God, it's over. It's really over. What's over? Why are you so happy? Ngoc has let go of me. She has let go of me. And from that day on, the young couple was once again immersed in the intoxication of love. The spiritual matter gradually faded into oblivion. 3 years later, Tu had become an agricultural engineer, excelling in his fields. His relationship with Truck progressed wonderfully. At the end of this year, in 3 months, their wedding would officially take place. This morning, Tu had just taken Truck to try on wedding dresses and arrange other services. As he was walking hand in hand with his fiancée, enjoying a stroll through the city, his phone rang. He frowned, looking at the number displayed on the screen. It was Master Ho. Tu quickly answered. Yes, hello? A young woman's voice came from the other end. Tu frowned. Hello? Who is this? Yes, is this Tu? Master Ho's student. Yes, that's right. What's wrong? Master Ho has passed away, dear. If you have time, please come and pay your last respects. Your number and a few others were the only ones in his contact list. If you know anyone else, please call them too, so Master won't be so lonely. As soon as the words ended, Tu dropped his phone. Seeing Tu's strange reaction, Truck asked him what was wrong. My master is gone. Oh my God, really? Well, I'm going in now. Will you come with me? No, I'll stay at the coffee shop. I feel a bit awkward and I'm also scared. Seeing this, Tu nodded and went to Master Hoa's house alone. When he arrived, there were already quite a few people inside. Master Ho was a very distinguished head of department. He had retired 5 years ago, but still helped Tu and a few other friends. Master Ho had no wife or children. His family lived in America. Tu caught a glimpse of a car parked outside, so he guessed that his relatives had returned. He hesitated, then walked inside. A woman came out. A woman came out? You're Tu? Yes, that's me. Oh, come in. They're about to conduct the funeral rites for Master. What did he pass away from, Auntie? He passed away from a stroke, poor man. He was alone, so no one knew. Tu nodded and walked inside with a sorrowful expression. Inside, Tu frowned when he looked at the obituary board. A tone, a strange name. He turned to ask someone, Excuse me, sir. Why does it say Letong here? Master Hoa is Lumin Hoa. At this, the man nodded and replied, "Oh yes, his name is Le Min Ho, but that's only his later name. His name on his birth certificate is Letong." Tu nodded. Really, he had never known this before. Returning from Master Hoa's house, Tu felt utterly distraught, partially because of the loss of the teacher he respected, and also because the name Letong made Tu feel as if he had heard it somewhere before. Seeing Tu, Truk eagerly asked, "Honey, what happened over there?" "It's all done," Tu said with a long sigh. "Yo, singers." He also told Truk about Master Hoa's changed name. Whether intentionally or not, Truk blurted out, "Why would someone change their name like that for no reason? It's like running from debt or a crime." As soon as Tu heard Truk's words, his eyes widened. He grabbed her hands and said loudly, "What did you say? Say that again." "Oh, I'm sorry. I spoke out of turn." "No, what did you just say? Tell me again." "I was just joking that changing names like this seems like running from debt or a crime." As she finished, Tulu let out a terrified cry. "Oh my God, that's right." The reason Tu reacted so emotionally was because Truk's words helped him remember who Letong was. Ngoc told me in a dream that she was blindfolded, so she didn't know who the killer was. She only faintly overheard a phone call where the killer mentioned his surname was Lo and his given name was Tang. After that, I immediately reported it to the police. But there was no one named Letung in the village. The only Le family in the village is the one in this house. But everyone had an alibi, so Ngoc's case faded into oblivion. But I will never forget this grudge. Because they are rich, they can cover up everything. The old man's words from over 3 years ago appeared vividly, and Tu couldn't believe his ears. Back home, Tu collapsed onto the bed, the truth unfolding in his mind. It was not only beyond imagination, but also changed all of Tu's previous thoughts about Master Ho. But he couldn't deny it. Tu remembered that when Master Ho drove him to that house, he mentioned living there with his relatives for over 5 years. Everything now was too coincidental. I wonder if Master ever felt tormented by his actions. Tu sighed deeply. True and Truk's wedding proceeded as planned, with blessings from both families and many friends. And the good news kept pouring in. Just over a month later, Truk was pregnant. Needless to say, as soon as she heard the news, Mrs. Yu organized a big party. She boasted to everyone she met, and everywhere she went, she spoke of her family's good fortune. This evening, after dinner, Mr. Kai, lost in thought, called his wife over to talk. Mrs. Yu, who was peeling fruit, looked up when her husband called. Yoni, what is it, dear? Mr. Kai took a sip of jasmine tea and began to speak. I see our family is growing bigger now. In a few months, Truk will give birth. I feel our house isn't new anymore. How about we build another floor for our grandchildren? I don't want them to live separately. Nothing, Math. I don't want them to leave. separately. The two of us would be very lonely here by ourselves. Mrs. Hugh nodded when she heard her husband say this. You're right. I don't want them to move out because the house is too small. So when do you plan to build? Mr. Kai pondered. I plan to hire an architect next month to re-examine the land and the timing. Then proceed to finish it before Truck gives birth. That would be ideal. That sounds good. I'll go tell Tu and his wife. Huh. So, the very next morning, Mr. Kai invited a Feng Shui master to re-examine the land and auspicious dates. Fortunately, his house was not subject to any bad omens. In just 3 days, they could begin demolishing the old house. Tu and his wife then temporarily moved in with his mother-in-law, but Mrs. Yu and Mr. Kai stayed with nearby relatives. It's broken. Something broke, Master Nam. A voice called out. Master Nam, the foreman, quickly ran over. He saw a construction worker squatting amidst a pile of rubble, pointing at it. What's wrong? Master Nam walked over to see. There, Master Nam approached and realized that a broken jar was buried under the ground. The assistant worker explained, This seems to have been buried under the house, sir. I used a crowbar to pry it open and hit it. I don't know what it is, but there's nothing inside. Master Nam squinted. It was indeed an empty jar. He shook his head and pointed at it. It's nothing. Keep working. It's probably something from the family. If there was anything valuable inside, it would have been found. Yes, sir. As soon as Master Nam finished speaking, the sky suddenly darkened, thunder and lightning struck. A heavy rain quickly followed, as if it wanted to wash away all the earth. It didn't stop until past 10 p.m. Damn it! Why is it raining so much this month, right after Tet? The weather is really unpredictable. Master Nam told them to go home and rest, and they would continue working tomorrow. Having said that, Master Nam and the workers turned back. But they didn't know that somewhere, amidst the sound of the rain, was the mournful cry of someone trying to encompass the entire earth with her grievance. Truk shivered as a lightning flash lit up the furiously raining sky. At this moment, she was alone. This afternoon, relatives in the neighboring village had a wedding, and since she was pregnant, she felt lazy. So Tu had driven her parents-in-law over to attend the wedding. Now, looking out from inside the house, Truk sighed. With rain like this, I wonder when the party will end. It was past 7 p.m. and no one had returned. Truk, anxious, took out her phone and called Tu. The sounds of laughter and loud music, accompanied by Tu's slurred voice, let her know the party was still ongoing. Truk hung up, closed the door, and walked into her bedroom. Normally at this time, she would be wide awake, munching on snacks and fruits and watching TV. But for some reason, Truk's eyes felt heavy and closed. She lay down on the bed. The rain made the air very cool. In just a moment, Truk fell asleep without realizing it. Soft snores emanated. Truk! Truk! A voice called out, startling Truk awake. She looked around blankly. The room was still silent. Remembering her family, she looked at the clock. 12 a.m. They hadn't come home yet. Truk. Another voice rang out, startling Truk again. Mom, Dad, too? Has everyone returned? But no one answered Truck. Feeling strange, she got up and stepped outside, but everything was still pitch black. Truck reached out and pressed the light switch. But surprisingly, the lights didn't come on. She frowned and muttered to herself, "Damn, a power outage." Truck tried again, but still no response. "Truck, Truck." The voice rang out again. "Who's there?" Truck called out as she quickly moved towards the door, trying to locate where the voice was coming from. But when she was only about 3 steps from the door, it automatically swung open. But that wasn't the most terrifying thing, because at the doorway a figure stood, staring intently at Truck. It was a girl with a naked body, her face pale, her eyes bloodshot, looking at her. "What?" Truck gasped, and then the strange girl slowly advanced. It wasn't walked in, but glided in, because Truck realized she had no feet. "You're pretty." The girl laughed and spoke, simultaneously raising both hands and pointing directly at Truck. At this moment, Truck was so scared that she stumbled backward. She raised her hands to wave her away. "Go away, go away." The girl's hands, with long sharp nails, were raised, aimed directly at Truck. A piercing scream rang out. Truck woke up. At this moment, Tu and her mother also rushed in from outside. "Truck, what's wrong?" Tu sighed, reaching out to embrace his wife. Suddenly, Truck regained her composure. She realized she was lying on the bed. "Truck, what's wrong, dear?" Tu said, looking at his wife with worried eyes. I had a nightmare," Truck said, then burst into tears. Seeing this, Tu sighed, then hugged his wife. There, I love you. It was just a dream." But then Tu paused, because besides Truck's crying, he also heard faint sobs from somewhere else, and then that crying quickly disappeared. Tu then turned and kissed his wife's forehead. "Well, isn't done yet, Mother." "All right, go back to sleep, dear. You're weak, so having nightmares is normal. I'll stay here with you, okay?" Truck nodded slightly, then buried herself in the blankets, tightly clutching her husband's arm until morning. She thought the dream last night was just a coincidence, but throughout the following nights, every time Truck closed her eyes, she dreamt of that girl again. A girl Truck had never met, never known. But in her eyes, it seemed the girl regarded Truck as her enemy. One time, she even walked over and caressed Truck's pregnant belly, then suddenly pressed her sharp fingernails into her stomach, making it bleed. Waking up, Truck suddenly felt a sharp pain in her belly. But when she went to the hospital, they told her she had a miscarriage. In just over a week, Truck had become noticeably gaunt and haggard. Tu loved his wife very much, but countless doctors couldn't diagnose any illness. They even said that if the situation continued, the baby in her womb would be affected. Hearing that her daughter-in-law was hospitalized, Mrs. Yu immediately rushed to visit. As soon as she arrived and saw her daughter-in-law's emaciated body, she exclaimed, "Oh my goodness, Truck, why are you so thin, my dear?" Truck burst into tears, then looked at Mrs. Yu, signaling her. Mrs. Yu turned to Tu, who was sitting nearby. 2, go to the canteen and buy some milk for your mother. But there's milk here already. No, go buy different milk. This kind isn't good for me. 2 was confused that he still didn't know what else to do. After 2 left the room, Mrs. Hugh whispered, "What's wrong, dear?" At this, Truk tearfully recounted all her strange dreams. After listening, Mrs. Hugh was silent for a moment, not knowing what she was thinking. Then suddenly she exclaimed in horror, "Oh no, this is bad!" As soon as she finished speaking, she stood up abruptly and quickly walked home. She ran home, where the workers were pouring concrete for the foundation. Mr. Kai was also there. Mrs. Hugh said nothing, striding purposefully towards Master Nam, the foreman. Nam, Nam. Master Nam was writing something in his notebook. Hearing the call, he turned around. "Yes, madam. What's wrong? Did you see a jar at Tool's house?" Mrs. Hugh asked frantically. "Anything need I Elvis, sir?" "What jar, madam?" The jar that was buried under the house, as Mrs. Hugh mentioned this. Master Nan immediately remembered the incident from the other day. He quickly replied, "Oh yes, but it broke. There was nothing inside, so I didn't report it to you." Hearing this, Mrs. Hugh was horrified. She felt as if she was about to faint on the spot. Her eyes went dark, and she exclaimed, "Oh my God, it's over!" Mr. Kai also approached to see what was wrong, but before he could ask, Mrs. Hugh had already left. He frowned, looking at Master Nam. "Nam, what was Mrs. Hugh talking about?" "I don't know, sir. She just suddenly asked about some jar and then left. I don't know what that woman is doing." After receiving the bad news, Mrs. Hugh quickly rushed to the hospital to inform Truk. "Oh my goodness, Mother. What do we do now? I'm so scared." "It's all right. Leave it to me. I'll go find that master from before to exorcise this ghost," she said, patting her daughter-in-law's shoulder. "Why are you inviting shamans to exorcise ghosts, Mother?" A voice rang out, startling both of them. It turned out Tu had been standing outside and heard the entire conversation. His face now held a mixture of surprise and anger. "You two, don't you know that doing this will prevent that girl from finding peace? You two will only accumulate more bad karma." Mrs. Hugh shook her head. Mother, only wants what's best for you." Truk was crying hysterically. Tu thought about his wife, burdened with a pregnancy, and felt pity for her. But more than anyone, he understood the feeling of being harassed by a ghost. "So, what are you going to do now?" Tu asked, looking at Mrs. Hugh. "Mother, I'll invite that master to come and eliminate it. Otherwise, Mother is afraid it will endanger Truk." Tu sighed deeply. All right, Mother. Whatever you say, I'll do it." So, the very next day, the shaman who had helped Mrs. Hugh suppress the spirit before was present. This time, he demanded 50 million dong. But what could they do? Once committed, they had to see it through. Mrs. Hugh gave him all her savings. In a flash, a ritual table was set up in the middle of the new house's foundation. The shaman wore a colorful silk robe. He held a bell in one hand and waved a stack of talismans with the other. At that moment, a thunderstorm began. Truk, frightened, grabbed Tu's hand. "Honey, I'm so scared. The ritual lasted for over an hour, and then the dark clouds dispersed. The shaman let out a faint smile and said, I thought it was something, but it's no different from the hungry ghosts on the street. Ye said how? No, dearie. Shamu. She. Ha. But as soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly spewed out a large mouthful of blood, his eyes bulging wildly, muttering, Help! 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 Everyone saw this and rushed over, but it was probably too late. The shaman seemed to have gone mad. He kept laughing hysterically. Failure. We failed. Mrs. Hugh cried out in horror. Oh, Mrs. Hugh cried out in horror. She looked at her daughter-in-law with bewildered eyes, and Ngoc also burst into tears. Even the shaman couldn't handle it, so we'll surely die. Ah, that's right. As everyone was in a state of confusion, Tu exclaimed, as if he had found something. He didn't say anything more but quickly ran out to his car. No one knew where Tu went, only that he returned home late that night. But he didn't come alone. He was accompanied by 2 old men, one of whom was a monk. Tu seemed very respectful of this old monk. He didn't explain anything, but as soon as he arrived, Tu quickly urged everyone to leave the house. That whole night, Tu and the 2 old men stayed inside. From time to time, the sound of wooden fish drums chanting sutras echoed, and even more terrifying were the sounds of crying and roaring that would give anyone goosebumps. By the next morning, the dark clouds had dissipated. The monk slowly walked out, and the old man with him was holding a yellow cloth bundle, their faces haggard after a sleepless night. Tu quickly rushed forward, asking about everything, then quickly took the 2 men away. After that, whether it was thanks to the monk's magical powers or not, Ngoc no longer dreamt of the mysterious girl. Everything gradually faded into the past. Only Tu's house now had another altar without anyone's image, but only a few talismans and a rosary. A few months later, Ngoc gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. Then the couple discussed and decided to name the baby Ngoc, like Ngoc.